Now, I've tried out a few different powders that I like in 38 Special, and it's time to make up some defensive rounds to practice with. I think the powder I'm going to go with is going to be CFE Pistol for a couple reasons that I'll get to in a second. For the bullets, I want to try out these Winchester Silvertip 125 grain jacketed hollow points. Very shiny, I think they have some sort of nickel plating. Looks like they're bare lead at the back, so these should kind of be like full metal jacket bullets. I couldn't find any published load data using these bullets, but from my previous videos, for HP38, I maxed out at 913 feet per second at plus P pressures using a snub nose revolver. Those felt kind of closer to weak 357 Magnum more than they felt like 38 Special. After that, I kind of futzed around with Gordon's reloading tool and precise load, and the pressure I was getting for those would be around 24,000 psi, which seems about right based on the recoil and the fact that we beat out the factory plus P ammo. For the Fiocchi plus P defensive rounds, we got an average of 890 feet per second, and this is all again being shot out of the Ruger LCR 357 Magnum. I'm not super worried about going over pressure because it's Magnum rated, but I want to try to stay true to 38 Special. Using Gordon's reloading tool again, the 38 plus P loads I did with CFE Pistol calculated to be around 17,000 psi, so that's kind of where we want to be at, and we got a velocity of 879 feet per second. I felt these were much more like regular 38 Special. They were pretty much identical in recoil to the Fiocchi rounds, which makes sense since they were only about 11 feet per second slower. Not really enough difference to make a difference. So I'm going to be shooting for a similar velocity. These bullets I think have like a nickel coating on them, so they may or may not cause more or less pressure. I don't know, we'll find out. First things first, let's take a look at these Silvertips compared to the Hornady XTPs just to kind of see where they're going to line up cannular-wise. So looking at the Silvertips, the cannular is very wide, so we have a pretty big range to play with seating depth-wise. It does look like they go up quite a bit higher than the XTP does though, so they might end up being seated a little bit deeper in the case. I mean, that's fine. We'll see what we end up getting velocity-wise. This is another reason why I wanted to go with CFE Pistol. I think we have a little bit more room on the top end if we need to pressure-wise for 38 Special, since multiple sources gave me right around max, regular 38 Special pressure, not even plus P. So doing some quick math, we can figure out which one is seated deeper and would increase pressure. The XTP is 0.544 inches long, and the Silvertip is 0.561 inches long. I was going to originally do this with Starline brass casings, but I did find that these were a little bit different in length than the brass casings I had. So for the XTPs per Hornady, the cartridge overall length is 1.450. That means there's going to be 0.306 inches of bullet outside of the case and 0.238 inches of bullet inside of the case. So that's what we're going to aim for with the Silvertips to get the same internal case volume. So again, Silvertips are 0.561 inches long, and the case remains the same length. So if we want 0.238 inches of bullet inside of the case, that would give us 0.323 inches outside of the case. So we add that to the case length, and that gives us an overall length of 1.467 inches, which is still under the max case length of 38 Special, which is 1.55 inches. So I'm made up a dummy round to get to some measurements to see if 1.467 looks like a good overall length. So here's the dummy round. I have this, so the case mouth is just barely inside of the cannular. When I look inside of it, I can actually still see the bottom of the cannular. This round is not deep enough into the cannular to properly crimp it, but it's right at the edge. This gives us an overall length of 1.461 inches. So our 1.467 inches is not going to work with this round. We're going to have to seat it deeper, so this could result in higher pressures. Let's see what overall length ends up looking like. It's about halfway into the cannular. Let's go down another 20. That looks okay. 1.444. Let's do another 4 just to give us our nice round number. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1.438, so that seated it just a tiny bit deeper. But I think 1.440 is going to be a good case length for us. So just a little bit deeper, a little bit shorter overall length than the Hornady rounds. And just to see, I kind of want to see what the very top of the cannular is for overall length. So let's take a look. I can actually just adjust the length by just twisting it. So there's another 5, 10. Let's see what that gets us. Still a little bit of cannular showing. Let's go another 10. All right, so that's right at the edge of the cannular. Let's see what that length gets us. 1.4055. So at the max, at the absolute bottom of the cannular, we got 1.461. So, and at the top of the cannula is 1.405. So the 1.440 puts us about a third of the way into the cannular, which I think would be fine for seating wise. So we're going with an overall length of 1.440 inches, which is deeper than the XTPs, but not crazy so. The bolts are a little longer. We're getting a little less internal volume in the case, so we might be seeing higher pressures, but there's a ton of factors that affect that, like how thick the jacket is on the XTPs compared to the Silvertip. I was able to push the Silvertips into the case without the aid of the press, so it seems like the bullets are pretty slick, so that should decrease friction and maybe lower pressure a little bit. I don't know. I also don't know how soft the lead is on either of these, but we're going to be safe and work up a ladder. So the Hodgson Reloading Data Center gives a load range of 5.4 to 6.3 grains with plus P up to 6.4 grains. So we'll work up a small ladder at 0.2 grain increments from 5.8 up to 6.4 grains and see what we get velocity wise. Again, we're shooting for around 880, 890 feet per second, or just a little below 900 feet per second, and we'll be prepared to stop and pull bullets if need be. For dies, we're going to stick with the Lee dies and use the alignment M die to help expand the case mouth. And for the press, we're going to stick with the Lee hand press for this one. I was cleaning up my whole desk area and I figured, let's go back to the hand press for a little while. So I got these all resized. Next step is using the alignment M die for expanding the case mouth. Alright, just barely accepts the bullet. Perfect. So let's do the rest. So I got the cases expanded, but now it comes to the real question. Do I finish off this batch of Remington small pistol primers I have with their disgusting golden color, or do I go completely all silver with the CCI small pistol primers? I think I'm going to try both just to kind of see which one looks the most aesthetically pleasing for no good reason whatsoever. I have a bunch of Remingtons, I have a bunch of CCIs. It doesn't matter which one I use. All right, so I got them primed, and I got to say, I kind of like the aesthetic of the gold primer on these. The silver just makes it seem all a little too one note, but I got to say, the Remington primers went in very tight. There was quite a bit of force to get those primers in there, whereas the CCI primers just slid right in like normally. So I got them loaded up, and I still can't decide which one I like more, the all silver or the primer with just the touch of gold at the bottom. I think both of them look great. So let's go see how they shoot. And we're back. These felt good, maybe a little weak. I think the nickel plating on the cases and bullets lowered our pressures a little bit. Our starting load of 5.8 grains gave us an average of 737 feet per second with a standard deviation of 24. These were a little anemic, but looking at the cases, it seems like we got a pretty good seal on the chamber, and there wasn't any unburnt powder that I was seeing, so I think we got a good crimp. The max load of 6.4 grains gave us an average of 830 feet per second with a standard deviation of 20. Pretty consistent, but still felt more like regular 38 special pressure. This gave us an average of 191 foot-pounds, and I think I would want maybe just a little more out of these. The XTPs gave us an average of 880 feet per second, so I think I might bump up the charge to 6.6 grains in the future just to see what I end up getting. Again, this is all getting shot out of a 357 Magnum snub nose, so I don't think I'm really going to run into issues pressure-wise. All these cases ejected easily, which, I mean, they might eject easily just because they're all nickel plated, but, I do think I have some headroom on the top. Luckily, there are several YouTubers that do gel testing. I see Tools and Targets did a gel test with a 125 grain plus piece Silvertips out of a Taurus snub-nose 357 revolver. He got an average of 822 feet per second, and Gun Sam did the same test and got 819 feet per second. So based on what I'm seeing, I'm getting around factory velocities, maybe even slightly above what they rate as plus P with the 125 grains. But in general, 125 grain plus P 38 special really should be getting higher velocities than 820 feet per second. And looking at these tests they did, they both got zero hollow point expansion. One was using a few layers of denim that got clogged up, the other one was using bare gel, But on the plus side, they weren't really over penetrating. I think both got around 16 inches of penetration on each, so that would be kind of right where you want to see in gel. I know gel tests are kind of like divination, but a lot of the good proven defensive rounds get between like 12 and 16 inches of penetration with good expansion. So I think these would work since penetration and shot placement seem to matter more when it comes to handgun rounds, but I kind of wish I had looked at the internet a bit more before doing this test. From my experience and what I've seen, I think I probably am going to have to stick with the 110 grain bullets for 38 special if I want to see both good expansion and good penetration. But like I said, multiple people have tested this round and got similar velocities and got similar penetration in gel testing, but not over penetration. So I think I'm going to load up 25 or so of these to use as defensive rounds, and since I was getting similar velocities as Factory Plus P, I think I would be comfortable using these in my Taurus snub nose as well. I think the next test I'm going to do with these Silvertips is going to be with 357 Magnum though. I only have 100 or so of them, and based on the performance I've seen, I'll probably end up just sticking with gold dots and XTPs in the future. But hey, they do look pretty damn good. Anyway, thanks for watching.